Well, located on the west coast of Africa, Sierra Leone is a beautiful country with abundant natural resources. Today, it's a land of peace, yet still bears the scars of terrible violence. For 11 years, the small African nation was torn apart by a gruesome civil war that enveloped the country, leaving 50,000 dead and over 300,000 children orphaned. And it's with these children that a group of Oklahomans are hoping to help this African nation by changing one young life at a time. But before we go there, first, some background. With unspoiled beaches and a tropical locale, Sierra Leone is a country of contrast. Rich in natural resources, it's one of the leading producers of diamonds. Yet it is also desperately poor. A peaceful people recovering from years of war.
RUF is fighting for the people! RUF is fighting for Sierra Leone!
The 2006 movie Blood Diamond tells the story how this small nation was torn apart by those wanting to control the country's lucrative mineral resources. A civil war where children were often conscripted into the fight and war atrocities became common. A gruesome story, and one that those who lived through it are reluctant to talk about.
I lost my mom during the war, but she was trying to rescue my dad.
M.S. Kamara was still a boy when rebels came to his village and began beating his father.
So my mom rushed and go and say, "Oh, please don't kill this. This is my husband and we have children. Please don't kill this." And so they said, "Oh, you don't want us to kill your husband?" She said yes. They said, "Okay." They pushed my dad in and they drew my mom outside. And also now they drew my mom and I just had a gunshot.
Leaving her bloody and dying in the doorway of her own home.
When I saw the blood, when she was bleeding, I fall on top of her, I had to go conscious because I love my mom so much.
An all too common story in a land where almost everyone knows the pain of war. Jacob was just a baby when a bullet ripped through his leg, leaving him with a lifetime of suffering.
Because the bone inside the leg used to move this flesh. So until they go to the hospital and do operation with the bone. And for him, Sierra Leone responsible for that. And not one, not two.
But multiple surgeries over his young life. And while such personal suffering is great, the entire country also struggles.
Equipment smashed, buildings smashed, for no particular reason other than just, violence.
Michael Owen is U.S. Ambassador to Sierra Leone.
Before the Civil War, which was really a devastating decade-long civil war, Sierra Leone was a breadbasket of West Africa. But unfortunately, during the war, farms were abandoned, people had to flee to the villages for their own safety. And even today, if you drive out into central and eastern Sierra Leone, you see what were once prosperous farms overrun by bush, completely overgrown. So they're in the process of reclaiming that land. There's a tremendous amount of highly fertile and potentially very productive land that needs to be reclaimed. So I think there's a tremendous potential here, and I think Sierra Leone could, with sufficient effort, again be the breadbasket of West Africa.
Which is what first brought OSU agricultural economist Mike Dix here in 2008. Dix has worked with developing nations for over 30 years, but none so ravaged by war.
This was the original location for the oil palm, and these were hybrids that were produced by Angela University. And I think during the war, when the palm oil production reduced, Malaysia and those countries pulled ahead and started doing a lot of the breeding. But this was the indigenous location, and they have certainly the capability of doing this once again and getting back into it. And of course, these trees, these palm oil plantations will produce 10 times as much biofuel as you would get from ethanol from the same acres of corn.
So the only thing that holds them back is infrastructure.
Yes.
But across this country, little infrastructure remains. Charred shells still dot the Angela University campus, an agricultural school still trying to teach classes amid the ashes.
But then when the war broke out and it really hit the campus, and we found out our students were involved in the rebel activity. Those students who had not made the grades, they have been expelled for one reason or the other. We are looking for staff that they think were responsible for their failures. They were, they killed a lot of staff that way. We had to run for our life to Freetown. It was not easy for us there.
Rosie Tajani teaches at Njala.
Half of Jala was burned down. It's only after the war that you see what is up now. The whole place was set on fire.
But the story of Njala University is much more than grim tales of war atrocities. Scratch beneath the surface of these burned out buildings, and what you'll find is hope and transformation.
I do believe, Rob, that in the long run, this university will be one of the best in the world.
Njala University's Joseph Conde.
Some of us stayed here in this country during the warring years, and we went through hell, and we understand what it was, the experiences of killing people, slaughtering them, and my hopes today are that the university will rise from the destruction. And I think that from the aspirations of the administration and the governments, this university is already up to some point, but still struggling to be what it is supposed to be.
And needed more now than ever. With schools burned to the ground, fearing for their lives, teachers fled, leaving an entire generation with little formal education. Inside this assembly hall, students swelter on a hot African afternoon.
Limited to war.
Many have walked miles just to get here, to come to a school that did not exist just months ago. Built with foreign donations, lessons here are simple yet practical. A short walk down a dusty road and you'll find a garden in the middle of a jungle. Now inside this clearing here in the forest is a vegetable garden that students from Njala University have put in. And the real key here is that the teaching that they're doing may well be to the kids, but it's the parents that they're trying to reach.
Well, we're doing this because they have not seen this before. This is the scientific way of producing vegetables. And the students need to learn that experience because this is a vocational school. If they drop out of school, they can grow vegetables and that will bring them income. And that is one of the reasons why. And again, we're teaching skills. Skills is the key thing. These kids need to know how to do some of these skillful things.
Rob, if you look out, you'll see where the plantings were before. Mm-hmm. Okay. What I was doing here is that this is the way to produce high intensity vegetable production. So they'll increase the yields by doing this way.
But of all the lessons being taught in this rebuilding nation, the most important may be both the simplest and the hardest. Moving forward from years of strife. Which brings us back to the man we first met, and now a pastor, to his countrymen, no matter their sins, in what was the cruelest of civil wars.
When I reflect my memory towards my mom, my mom's situation, I nearly cry. But it is heavy, but we need to forgive.